Hi, everyone, and welcome back to OTTB On Tap. I'm Neve.
And I'm Emily. Hey, Neve, what's on tap today?
Our guest today is fan favorite Aubrey Graham, founder of Kivu Sport Horses and creator of Thoroughbred Logic, a popular educational platform dedicated to helping riders better understand and retrain off-the-track thoroughbreds. With a background as a cultural anthropologist and more than 20 years of professional training experience, Aubrey has earned a reputation for her thoughtful, horse-first approach to training. Through her writing, clinics, and educational programs, she's helped countless riders better understand the minds of thoroughbreds and build stronger partnerships with them. Today, we're catching up on everything she's been working on, including her new organization, Stable 13. We'll take a deeper look into her series, Thoroughbred Logic, and what's next for both her and Kivu Sport Horses. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. And just if we need to read it, it is Stall 13. Not that it matters.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. Stall 13.
Okay. I got it.
Okay.
It's all the same. It's just a box we put them in. It's all
I was on the website all day today. I'm in menopause. I blame menopause.
So am I. It's fine. It's very complicated.
Rename. We'll just rename your whole program. It's fine.
Okay.
But also, can I steal that introduction for days I'm like having crappy days so I can just play that and be like, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll send it to you in a clip and you can just put it on repeat.
That's amazing. But thank you so much for having me, guys. This is great. I'm really thrilled to be back. You're my favorite people to talk to on a podcast.
Last time we talked about how you train horses, and since then it feels like your work has expanded beyond just training individual horses. You're building communities, educational resources, and now Stall 13. It almost feels like your philosophy has become an organization. For listeners who haven't heard about Stall 13 yet, what is it?
Stall 13 is a nonprofit. We're a 501c3 based in New York. And we're a small nonprofit. We have 5 horses currently, maybe 6 if we count the one that's leased out. And we basically are a little bit of a boutique, not aftercare organization. I really hate the word aftercare. We can get into that at some point. But what we do is take horses who are having a tough time off the track. And they can be the ones coming straight off the track sometimes with rehabs. We had one with a really horrific knee. Things where people say, that's not a case I want to take a risk on. We'll take that risk. And we deal with, I have one that had a huge suspensory issue. We've had one with the knee coming off the track. And then the other, and I think the part that I find more interesting about this, besides just the general rehabs, which I learn a lot, I think they're really neat. I'm getting a lot of extra veterinary knowledge, understanding how to go forward with these things. But the other part of it is we come in on 2 streams, is also working with horses who are midway in some way, shape, or form of their second career. And I find that those horses tend to often be seriously at risk because there aren't necessarily the aftercare organizations or the rescues that are able to work with them and help them in certain ways. So you have horses right off the track. There's actually quite a bit of good aftercare out there. There's lovely organizations that take these horses, do the rehab. I could name drop a handful, but they're wonderful and they're already doing that. So us doing that it's great. I like doing that. It's fun. It's probably needed, but it's not the most important thing out there. What I find happens is when you have horses that get themselves in through a series of whether it's injuries, inappropriate, I'm saying inappropriate, but I don't blame the people, right? Sometimes it's just the situation. But inappropriate housing, turnout, care, feed, management, lack of veterinary knowledge, things like this, that get stuck. And then you have this 7-year-old horse who's been off the track for 4 years and is worth less than they were when they came off the track. The owners don't have any more money to put into them, and they're at risk. So we have some interesting horses that come through, and those are the cases I really love. I've been doing those cases for years. And so basically, in short, Stall 13 is this 2-channel program where we take horses from the track and do rehabs, but we also work with challenging case thoroughbreds that come from their second careers who just need, to be cliche, to get on a better path, right? Or get back on a better track, if you want to say it that way. But they need to hit pause for a second. Get anthropologists. So we need to analyze. I need to analyze what's going on, figure the horse out, make a plan for how to go forward, and then get them to a next home, right? So the idea is that they don't stay here with us. We're not a sanctuary. They can stay as long as they want. I don't flip these horses. They don't come in and leave quickly, like at all. Sometimes, much to everybody's chagrin, they're here for quite a long time. But then we get them to a spot where they hopefully can have a long-term home and with a guarantee that they can always come back. Now, I have that guarantee with any of my horses that sell out of my program anyway, because the thing that lets me sleep at night is knowing that if these horses get in a bad spot, suddenly hate the new trainer or the new barn or the new stalls, all of which I've had happen, and the person goes, I don't have the resources or the ability or the desire to work with this anymore. Can you just take it back? The answer is always yes, or I can reconsign it for them. So those horses can always come back anyway, but Stall 13 comes with a little bit more robust. When it sells, you kind of have to pass a contract along and things like this. Yeah. So sorry, that's a kind of a long, rambly way to say we take horses and rehab them off the track, and we also run this challenging case program for horses that are coming through their second careers.
Yeah, I think that's really brilliant, though, because there's sorry, Neve. There's just, like you said, so many resellers or aftercare programs, and I feel like the Thoroughbred, there was this kind of rebirth of interest in the off-track Thoroughbred through the RRP and all of these other programs, plus they are the more economical horse to get into in a lot of ways. And I think that while it's great that it encourages a lot of people to get into off-track Thoroughbreds, sometimes they're not quite ready for one that's fresh off the track. And then what do you do? So it's wonderful that you are providing this really soft landing for them. Sorry, that wasn't really a question. I just think it's cool.
No, it's a nice follow-up, though. I was also going to say that if you wanted a little bit of insight into how thoughtful this program is, all you have to do is go look at the available horses listed on Stall 13's website, because the way that these horses are described, it's not so much a sales ad as it is a LinkedIn profile with a little Tinder mixed in. It's just this, it's what I could be good at, what my personality is like, how I look, where I would thrive, the type of person I'm looking for will be X, Y, and Z. And it just covers like all of the bases so that, and I love the fact that you go, and if you're not somebody who wants to do this, I'm sure we have another horse you might like. And it's just it's honest, but it's not off-putting. And I think that the resale industry is lacking a little bit of that finesse sometimes. I think, especially when you're like a high volume reseller, you've got to just stop people in their tracks a lot of times, like, because you just don't have the time, right? But it's so cool that you guys have this secondary portion of your program where you get to take that extra time and really think about the matchmaking process in a way that means the horses are never in a rush to leave. So.
And I should probably explain the way it's linked to my for-profit, because that gets a little confusing, right? Because you have Kivu Sport Horses, which is the for-profit program, which is my full-time job. And the nonprofit side of this is basically I've been taking these cases for years and just losing money on them. This is just what I do. I'm a very poor business person when it comes to things. People are like, you should get that horse out the door. And I was like, we're going to fix it. And they're like, oh God. Okay. Year and a half later, I'm like, we're going beginner novice. It's getting fixed. But so I've been doing that anyway. But the for-profit side, I take in consignment. So I get a lot of interesting horses that come in as well that are maybe not perfect. And I also like imperfect horses. I joke that they're my island of misfit toys, or we're the island of misfit toys, and my horses are all my misfit toys, right? You keep a thoroughbred around long enough, you will start to figure out all the things that might not be perfect about them. And some of them, sure, I have yet to meet a perfect one, but I'm sure they might be out there. But the for-profit ones we're able to get them to regular riding homes, more competitive homes, things like this. And when they sometimes when they struggle in those situations, or we start finding all of these things that are like, oh, wow, oh no, maybe we can't just move this horse to a home, in a normal fashion to a normal home. Sometimes they can move from that program to the nonprofit. For instance, I have a horse named Hennessy. He's a great jockey club name. He's Johnny Bootlegs. Yes. And he's this gorgeous, like, bright chestnut / liver chestnut, 16-3 hand, 7-year-old. And I love him. But he came in, he's got some hind end stuff. And I disclose it in ads. But how do you sell a horse? What do you say? We have some hind end stuff, but I don't know what it is. Right. And the owner was like, she was wonderful. And she was like, I want him to be there. I love the training, but I can't afford a workup with your vet and any real diagnostics. And I was like, okay, but we can't sell the horse until we have the workup. Yeah. And we're not going to get someone to pay for that on a PPE because this horse is just too much of a risk. And watch him go, he's lame. Yeah. It is not a question. It's not, so I'm like, let's take him out and do some photo shoots in the field and be like, he might be able to do a walk trot home, but really you still have to look at the hind end.
Yeah.
You have to promise me you're going to do a vet exam. We will actually give him away to the right home. I won't say that online because that brings all the weirdos out of the woodwork. But to the right home, he was available to move so long as somebody would promise that they would actually, on a contract, do that hind end exam.
Yeah.
And no one would do that. So eventually the owner was like, I don't think I can pay for any more months of consignment. And so we ended up moving him over, and she donated him into the program.
Okay.
The program comes, so Stall 13. So now he's moved. I don't think I've actually moved him over on the website yet because it's very new. But the program comes with an asked donation when somebody donates a horse. You can only take so many at a time. So I'm not really it's hard to take outside horses right now. Occasionally we can for unique situations.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. We can play with some of these situations because they're fun. I like to talk about them. But so Hennessy moved over, and the donation that his owner was able to give instead of paying board went immediately to paying his vet bills. So within a couple days, I had my super good lameness vet out, and we took a look at his hind end, his front end, all the things, x-rayed a ton of things, and found out that he has one hock that's half fused.
Oh,
and
okay.
Both joints, the lower, the TMT and the DIT in the hock, both need injections. They both have pretty average arthritis, but clearly irritating him. And the thing with that horse is I don't mind if he's a little bit lame. You can serviceably sound a horse, right? Mm-hmm. But I do mind if they can't sit over their hocks and they get angry when they do that and they're going to buck or bolt or rear or get really upset. So he was in that camp where I could ride him because I could feel it coming and I could let him off of it and just kind of keep him in that space. But it's a real hard ride to just put somebody on a thoroughbred and be like, balance him between happy and angry without putting too much leg on and without sitting over his hocks, because if you do, you can't grab his face, right? And
Right.
So I got on him today, which is we're 10 days post injections. I've been really busy, so he's just been backburnered. They gave him 10 days for the injections to kick in, and we did inject both joints. And I have a 90% sound horse.
That's amazing. Yeah, and then probably the rest of it's just strength, right?
And he needs to be reshod. So the lack of the farrier for a minute. He's got a little bit of soreness at his toe and probably is growing out an old abscess.
Yeah.
So we just need to do a little bit different shoeing on his left hind for the toe. And I'm like, but I was able to actually get him to stretch long and low and reach and things this horse has never in 3-4 months he's been here been able to do. So I'm just completely floored and thrilled that worked out. And now hopefully I can get this horse out and jumping a little bit, doing a couple little things, and then he can get to a home with a little bit more knowledge because he's not so limited. Yeah. And then it would be the same low donation. This horse is not going to be a $5,000 horse. He'll probably go out on a donation of about $2,000 for an adoption. But again, just the ability means he'll get to somewhere most likely that he's got a little more of a fighting chance of being an athletic horse and not having to be a quiet trail horse, which he does not really want to be. Yeah. He's got more energy and more talent than that. I can go into a lot of the cases, but that's kind of how it works sometimes between the two. But horses that come into Stall 13 never are marketed as for-profit horses. Yeah. And the for-profit horses, which pay my bills and I don't have a salary, but whatever it pays, my mortgage, is very separate from all the accounting and all the things in the 501c3. So we do, it works together, but also quite together, but separate. That sounds terrible because that's been used for really terrible things in the past, but it works really well for this organization.
I think the business model that you're setting up with your for-profit and nonprofit as stones of one another is really a unique approach, and I'm hoping that more businesses take it on in the future, or I hope that maybe they can utilize something like that, because I think one of the things that's really tough about getting horses off the track, especially when you get them through trusted connections or sight unseen or whatever, is that there's a lot of factors that play into how quickly you're able to turn these horses around, right? We'd all love to think that they come off the track looking terrific, they've already had a little letdown or whatever, right? But the reality is that even in the best of scenarios, they might need 200 pounds and their feet might need some time. And sometimes that's as easy as just getting them out on some turnout and slapping some new shoes on them. But, other times it's a year of growing a new foot. And there's got to be something to catch those horses as a part of the aftercare industry. And I love that you've built it into your system.
And I still have to figure out how to build it in better. We're still getting there, because the interesting thing, I have horses that come in just like that, right? I have a horse named Shorty. He came in from a trusted connection. He's a gorgeous second generation Malibu Moon, and he is tricky. I joke that he is everything someone doesn't want when they don't want a thoroughbred.
Oh, it's a Malibu Moon.
All of the reason. I'm not even. I have two other ones in the barn, and they're great. But he's a different one. He's a finicky version of the Malibu Moon temperament. So he cribs. He's a hard keeper. His feet are tough, right? They're not tough. They're trash, but they're tough to manage. So frequent abscesses, ulcers, very difficult at the mounting block.
Oh my God, he really is like negative check.
He took months to understand turnout, and leading in and out of the barn took months. I've never had a horse that took as long as he did to understand just walking with a human without losing your mind.
That's wild.
Kind as the day is long. Good on cross ties. And once you're walk track, best canter I've ever ridden in a thoroughbred, quiet to jumps, brilliant, but you got to be able to get on him. At this point, it's been 6
like
months.
A running start.
Yes, you put your foot in the stirrup, and he was as soon as you put weight in it. So it wasn't that you put your foot in, he'd stand there, but as soon as you started to come up and over and on him,
you got to be committed.
He was bolting and bucking, and so you kind of had to heft yourself on. So of course, then you fall on him like a sack of potatoes, and he's like, right, and it makes
even
it
better. Yeah.
And his track owners did warn me. They were like, "Hey, by the way, we do mount him facing a wall," and you're like.
That's a new one. I've never heard that.
Me either. I was like, okay. But now to let me get on, I don't have to touch the reins. I can walk up to the mounting block, get on him, right? But it's taken 6 months.
Yeah.
And I'm crossing my fingers it all works out, but he has a home lined up for the same price I have to pay his track owner, right? I will lose 6 months of all of that work, all the gaff guard, all of the things. There's zero profit coming in. But if I had just flipped him and tried to get him the hell out of the barn, maybe I would have made a profit, but would he be safe? Because this is the type of horse that will bounce. Yeah. And it sounds like where I have him going now, that hopefully it's a long-term thing and he shouldn't bounce, and they're very knowledgeable, and I feel good about it. But so that horse really, I should be able to streamline this enough where you're like, okay, so if you hit 2 months and the horse seems difficult, it needs to go over in the nonprofit. Yeah. But I haven't quite figured out how to make that work yet, because funding the nonprofit is hard. So it's almost the same. Yeah. Well, right now, and we'll get into funding at some point. But
I was going to say that I have questions about how you have that all set up, but we don't need to get into that quite yet if you don't want to.
Whenever you want to get there.
All right.
You know how this works. I just do this.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about your plan behind Stall 13 and how the funding works? You've mentioned a donation when the horse comes to you, and then when the horse gets adopted, you get a donation. But I'm assuming your bills are larger than that.
Oh, yeah. So right now it doesn't really work. It's a tricky thing that is being funded out of sheer stubbornness, largely from my for-profit paying for my nonprofit, which is what we all do. I actually had a meeting with a bunch of New York aftercare organizations a little while ago to talk to somebody from the Gaming Commission to talk about possibly getting breeding money from the breeders. There's a pot of money. There's like $28 million or something like that in New York that is used for, don't quote me on that, I don't remember. I think it's around that 23, 28, somewhere in that range. The Gaming Commission people, don't jump on me. But they use it for like end of year awards for top horses, for top breeding farms, for good programs. Like it's all the like award money that isn't delegated as to exactly where it goes. But the expectation is that it goes to breeders and it goes to the farms and the trainers that run the good New York bred horses. So it's incentives. And they were going to pull up to 10% of that to go to aftercare. Wow. So up to 2.8 million or 2.3 million, whatever it was. And everybody thought it was a good idea for a minute and then shut it down. So that didn't happen at all. So there are like these attempts at trying to get aftercare funding. Yeah. And a lot of the grants, we're still working on trying to figure out grants. I'm good at writing them, but I'm so strapped for time that I really don't have time to like research where they are and who they are. And I have a great board. They're wonderful, but they're all new to this too. So we're all coming in and going, how do we figure this out? And then you have the TAA, Thoroughbred Aftercare Association, which you have to be a 3-year-old organization to be eligible for. And the Thoroughbred Charities of America organization and grants. I actually applied for, but never heard back from whatsoever. Didn't even get a acknowledgement of application. So I don't know what happened there. Very likely my error, but it did submit. So I don't know. Yeah. And I think in a year and a half, you're eligible for those. But the grants are tough because, again, the expectation is you have a certain amount of horses in your program kind of at all times and that you're funded and
Right.
that you need more funding, right? And it's like, okay, so we're trying to keep a certain amount of horses in the program to be able to be eligible for these grants, but we can't get the grants until we are a certain number of years old. With
You
a
gotta
certain
get
number
there.
of horses in the program.
It's a vicious cycle, yeah.
It's a cycle that really stops people from doing this before it's possible to actually do it. I think there's a lot to be figured out on that. And a great resource for both Stall 13 and the region is Finger Lakes Finest,
Yes.
which is a listing service right now, but they're trying really hard. It's run, Sarah Hepler is one of my good friends, and she's running it now. And they're trying to really work on figuring out how to build in kind of this buffer and protection for the horses coming off the track there and link to us and other aftercare organizations here. So when you have one that you know has chips, or the trainer has no money to keep it, and we're getting down to a really tight timeline, things like that, to try to link to these other organizations to get the horse safe before it has a chance to have something bad happen and we have to step in later or scramble to try to have something happen at a later date. But getting back to the funding part, is there's a huge shout out to everybody who does this little individual donation type thing. And sometimes, let me step back for a second and try to explain it this way. My PhD is in cultural anthropology, but it's looking at humanitarian photography in the conflict zone of the Eastern DRC, and the way in which that meant the way in which photography was linked to funding, and the way in which that and the perceptions of these things led to on the ground behavior in the area and completely changed social and conflict-based situations dealing with funding. Sorry, I don't have this shut up alerts on my computer, so it's going to bleep a little bit. So one of the things that kept happening in those situations was you would have normal everyday needs. This organization is funding a women's health center. Okay, and great. Normal everyday needs at a women's health center are not interesting. They are just what has to happen. You have to buy medicine. You have to have someone clean the sheets. Somebody has to mop the floor. Somebody has to,
nobody cares.
Stuff that no one cares about.
Yeah.
You cannot make that. Maybe you can, with great photography. Sometimes you can do really interesting things with this, but for the most part, you pitch that out to the U.S. and everybody's going to be like, great. But Congo was in 2009, Eve Ensler rated it as the worst place in the world to be a woman, for the amount of sexual violence that was committed both at war and not at war. Using that extreme statement, every organization was able to get money from all over the world by putting women who had experienced sexual violence first and foremost in these situations where everything was extremely, and to be fair, understandably, very dramatic, to bringing funding. So I spent a lot of time. My master's was actually on specifically that situation. And then my PhD looked more broadly at aid organizations and photography across the region that covered that, but went beyond it. So working now in a nonprofit and running a nonprofit where I don't like to sensationalize things. I don't like to capitalize on the things that are these moments that everybody goes, oh, poor thoroughbred. It's a rescue, right? It needs help. I love these horses like Hennessy, where nobody's going to sit there and say, oh, poor Hennessy. They're going to be like, wow, you lucked out and somebody's figuring you out. Great. But we had horses that bounced off the track last year. So we had Wine Responsibly and Dates Freedom that actually hit the Pollock report, and this kind of was like the big deal in the fall. They finished the meet. They retired off the track to personal homes. And each of them, respectively, different situations on slightly different timelines, ended up in auction houses within 2 to 3 weeks of leaving the track, heading towards the auction pipeline and kill pens. So these are fresh racehorses that may or may not ever have had a post-track ride, and they were purchased to be riding horses for someone personal, and then suddenly here we are in auction pens.
Yeah.
So and that's where I ended up having to build a quarantine shed in my backyard and run quarantine all winter for these two respective horses, because they had been exposed to everything. And normally at the track, everybody's on top of anything. God, you have a strangles outbreak, and everything shuts down, and you know that for the most part you're getting reasonably well vaccinated, taking care of HISAs on top of it.
They just have to
be coming straight off the track, but coming out of an auction pen, they've been exposed to everybody under the sun with who knows what background, and they're like, okay, cool, can't risk my business in my barn, so you have to isolate. And I'm like looking out my window being like,
you're like, I don't really have the facilities for this.
I don't. And I said yes to take the horse. And so we built them. We built them in 24 hours with a snowstorm in Penn. It was one of these incredibly Herculean things that my partner stepped up and helped out. He's great with carpentry stuff. And we basically turned this kind of janky shed into a barn and bedded with straw, put my feed store guy, Justin of Lily's Tack and Feed, is amazing. And he was like, I was like, I need a round pen. And he's like, fantastic. He's like, pay me when you can. I'll bring it out today. Drops everything and gets there and then helps me set it up, right? And so we bolt the round pen, this huge round pen setup to the shed. And then I have access to it from my basement with different clothes and all the things. The feed is in my basement. And I walk out that way to go there. And then I'd come back in and scrub with Chlorhex and change my clothes. And then
in the middle of winter.
The other door.
It's perfect.
In the middle of the winter. Lots of blizzard conditions, which were really entertaining because it'd be first thing in the morning and then last thing of the day. You come back in, you're like, there's a fire inside. I'm so warm. And I was like, I have to go feed Dave.
You just got to keep moving.
And it was,
do not sit
great.
down.
Yeah.
Literally, as soon as Wine got to come back, Wine responsibly, when he got to come back into the barn, I was so excited to not have to do quarantine anymore. And Dates, Don't Poke the Cat, and Financial Stability all were like lost in the auction
all
pipeline.
three of those horses have the best names.
I know. Those are some great names.
Yes. And Don't Poke the Cat, I think, ran over 100 times. He was just an amazing horse. And it was just one of those shitty situations.
Yeah.
And they all bounced. They all sold to the same person who then said they were too hot. And there's this whole weird narrative. We didn't think they didn't have brakes. We tried to ride them. There were no brakes. Did you really try to ride them? I don't know what happened. But they ended up leaving in the middle of the night from their New Jersey boarding barn and dropping them at an auction house for way less money.
That's
in
reprehensible.
Kentucky. Two of them, so Financial Stability and Don't Poke the Cat, ended up in Bowie, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, auction house down in Texas, which Big Kill Pen moves to other auctions and sells out of there, but also a lot of horses that ship over the border. And Dates got left in Kentucky. I think probably because he's a nicer looking horse. I don't know. Maybe. He's a nice looking horse. But we managed to buy him back out of the auction house and then ship him back home, which of course you're buying into the racket of why people do this.
Right.
So it sucks and I don't like doing that, but we also managed to get the horse out. So fine. It's this double-edged thing.
It's such a catch-22, right?
Yep. And when these horses, these two, Wine and Dates, when those two came here, it was a big event, right? And it's like exactly the stereotype of what you don't really want to play on is, the track like sold them quickly and the people were irresponsible and then these thoroughbreds end up in a kill pen, right? It's that narrative that nobody wants to deal with, but it happens all the time. And it's such a sensational one that we got a bunch of donations. So a lot of people were just, great, Venmo, here, yes, send the money. And I'm extremely grateful for that because that paid a lot of bills. And they all had to have vet work and all of the things, plus building the quarantine shed and on top of just cost of living stuff. But it was that kind of sensational moment in contrast to the everyday, we're working with hard cases I've got a horse with like really interesting kissing spine, which will be an interesting conversation, right? Yeah. There's like, those aren't as like, what do people want to donate to, right? They want to donate to keeping the organization afloat.
Yeah.
And that takes a different type of donor rather than like people who are like, the thoroughbred industry is terrible and you saved these horses, right? It's like, did we really save them? It's a nice horse. Somebody would have probably also bought it out of there and hopefully done
right. You're like, I can see here it sold at auction as a yearling for $335,000. So clearly somebody thought it was worth money or whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a really interesting point that you bring up. And as a photographer and someone who's greatly passionate about some very similar topics as you, I'm just like, I feel my heart swell when you're talking about some of your background, and it's so interesting to me. But I do think there is this like, what are we supposed to do about the optics of getting people to care? Because you do see it with, Emily and I used to do some work for a rescue organization. The cases that you see that get the most money are the ones that are like the worst photos and quite frankly, maybe a horse that should maybe be humanely euthanized, truly. And people are just hand over fist, this is my last Social Security check and I'm going to donate the money and this and that to save this horse. And it's like, how do we dial it back or filter it or make it make more sense than that? And I don't know how to do that because the people's hearts and the caring is in the right place. But then you're also like, but how do we dig into the pockets of people that have more to give, but maybe care a little bit in a different way? Less or differently. Right. Do you know what I mean? They're like, I'm passionate about this, or I'm a big wig in the horse racing industry, or maybe not even the horse racing industry. And they just go, where can I place some of this money where it will be best served to advocate for not the worst cases in the entire world, because they're always going to be pretty much okay. Because someone's going to pick up the news story, or someone's going to blast it on Facebook. It's going to go viral, or a minor celebrity is going to get a hold of it or whatever. But yeah, I can kind of see what you're saying, and I feel like you're really on the right track.
But it's tricky because I don't want to use those.
No,
like it's so easy to use those moments, right? Yeah. To try to bring in, or even, and a lot of organizations will construct those moments,
yes.
right?
Yes.
It's that the pressure's on. We have to do the thing. We've got 24 hours to save it.
Yes.
Like that gets alarm bells off and gets people to open up their pocketbooks and say, no, okay, yes.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like, okay, I can give to this organization, but yeah, maybe not this month, and they still are going to need the money next month. Very true. We need the money all month. But it's hard, and the reason I put the organization together in the first place is I'm terrible at asking for money. I'm patently bad at it. I just do this on my own normally, where I'm just like, whatever, I just pay for it and figure it out, and not well, because I'm not independently wealthy, and my finances are often terrifying as opposed to positive, but that's a more common term. But trying to ask for donations and figure things out is really tough for me. So I was like, when I put a board together, I was like, I want to do this organization because I want people to help me with the paperwork, because I'm also terrible at paperwork, and to help drive donations. And we're still really trying to figure that out. We're in the middle of some strategic planning. Like, strategic planning for a small organization is not that difficult. Strategic planning for big organizations is a huge thing. And in the middle of those conversations, to try to figure out what other board members we can bring on, how we can find grants, and how we can drive more donations. Because unlike things that deal with, I don't know, the president, my friend Amanda Woomer, works with a bird rescue, right? And certainly there's overhead for birds, but the overhead for birds is significantly less than the overhead for horses, right? So we need a lot of little things to add up. And I have friends who are wonderful, who are like doing basket raffles, who did Kentucky Derby parties, and try to do these little things that all contribute and they help. But
you need like recurring, like either monthly, yearly, whatever the case might be, just like a constant, like this is always going to be there sort of situation.
Yeah. And it's tricky. So we just set up a Substack, which I don't know how to use. That's like outside of my normal venue of social media type stuff. But Amanda runs it, and she basically sits down and interviews me on topics about using Dates, one of the horses that bounced through Kentucky in the auction house, to get at some of these topics and tell his story, and talk about training and roadblocks. And we're taking him to the makeover this year, so we're trying to use a little bit of a platform and talk through the various challenges we've had with this, which are very representative of most thoroughbred owners who are going through the first year of letdown with a war horse, and one with a big personality. So he's an entertaining case. I like him a lot. But so we've got the Substack, and there's like a little subscription thing for that, which is cool. And we're trying to get 2 or 3 of them out a month. But that does add up. But how many people do we have to have before it covers the fact that our overhead right now is close to $3,000 to $4,000 a month?
Yeah.
So it's tricky, and I think out of sheer stubbornness, I will just keep fighting the good fight, and it pays itself back. I get reimbursed when horses sell and things like that. So it works somehow, and we're still here. But it's validating to do it anyway, just because of the cases like Henny, or the horse with the kissing spine like William, which if you want, I'll tell the story at whatever point. And we get this kind of wide range of horses in that we're able to figure out, which I don't know. I guess that's why I do this with thoroughbreds, because it never lets my brain stop working.
I feel like you're not going to tell us. Oh, you're on mute. I think. I don't hear you. She's like, I really don't want donations, guys.
Can you still hear us? Okay, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah, you're good.
Okay.
So
I picked up my phone to try to look up the Substack. I think the Substack is just Substack Stall 13. I will double check for you, and apparently I can't touch my phone right now. It's going to kick me over to the phone, which is what the issue is.
Gotcha.
And if people are feeling extremely kind and want to donate, Venmo is the easiest way to do it, and it's just a Stall 13. So STALL13, and it's a picture of me riding Major Spin, which was our flagship horse from last year. So just a cantering red horse, and the confirmation telephone number for that is 2727.
Cool.
We do have a website with
to our show notes too, just so people can find them.
Fantastic.
Okay, sorry. Go on.
And I'll The website one has a donate link as well, but we're trying to change banks right now, so Venmo is probably a better option. All of the fun things.
Perfect. I would love to hear about your kissing spine horse because I feel like this is a good story. Unless Neve, you had a
I don't know, but
direction
I'm just going to go use the
Where are you?
restroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay. You're good. No problem.
So William is interesting because he's, let's see. I don't normally go looking for outside horses, but every once in a while an outside horse shows up and you're like, yep, nope, that's what we're doing. There is no question.
Right.
And my board is lovely because I'm like, hey, we're taking this horse. And they're like, don't you have enough horses? And I'm like, doesn't matter. We're bringing this one. And they're like, oh, yeah. So I had this wonderful barn help, Camille, who worked for me. She's at Cornell. She's a physics major. She's badass. And she went back home for the summer into Maryland. And when in Maryland, so she works for her trainer there. And there's a lesson barn down the street that they casually call a lesson mill. When horses are done at that lesson mill, they are sent off to auction. Yeah. So this is a big gray 10-year-old thoroughbred. He's about 16 too. And they reached out, the lesson mill will reach out to this other trainer and say, hey, we have this horse and we're going to send him off, or would you like him? Because they know that sometimes she'll take the horses that don't quite work. So they reached out. She goes, I don't have need for a slightly quirky thoroughbred. Her barn operates on draft crosses and a handful of other things, and really great. She has lovely lesson horses. But she's telling Camille about this, and Camille is like, oh, there's a thoroughbred that needs help? Oh, I know where it can go. Right. So the two of them reach out. Yeah, I'm like, great, thanks, guys. So the two of them reach out to me, and I get this, hey, there's this horse. We don't know if it's sound. We don't know anything about it other than we're told it has pretty atrocious kissing spine, and they don't want it in the lesson program anymore. So they're going to donate it to auction or send it off to auction. And I was like, yeah, let's not have that happen. That sounds like a really bad idea. And the trainer, Stephanie, is like, yep, and she's like, I need to do something because I don't feel comfortable with this horse heading off to auction either. So this is not what we want to do. Let's step in. She went and picked the horse up from the barn, brought it to her house. I drove down and picked him up from her. And we just, lovely human, got along great. It was like, okay, everybody's on the same page about getting this horse out of this situation and not having them go to a high kill pen auction. So ship him back up here. And he is the sweetest, most nervous, most interesting creature. You can't leave him alone on the cross ties. He will break them. He's afraid of fly masks.
Oh, no.
Fly masks. He's gotten way better. Like, way, way better. But you used to walk in his stall with a fly. You walk in, he's like, oh, hello, hi. And he's very sweet. And you walk into the fly mask, and he's like, oh, hell no, I'm out of here. And he's in the back corner being like, no.
Oh.
You're like, oh, okay. So we figured we'd just go slow and work with him with that. But he has, if you look at his x-rays, his back looks like semi-overlapping Swiss cheese. Like I think he has more than 6 points of sclerosis, of touching vertebrae points. He has one that has a cyst, maybe two that has a cyst in there. Very common things I've seen in lots of backs. But there's quite a few. He's not really a surgical candidate. And I'm not a huge go do surgery on backs anyway. I like to do a lot of that works I find with the rehab. Tends to be really productive for these horses of just getting them to be ridden correctly or long and low, work on the ground. And I was like, all right, let's see. Because these horses, if they palpate, often they're going to have riding problems. So I palpate his back, I lift his back up and down. It doesn't lift great, but you can do whatever you want all the way down his spine, put as much pressure as you want, pull, push, whatever. Nothing. He doesn't care. And I was like, all right, he needs some hind shoes and he needs probably some hock injections. But so I hop on, and this horse is absolutely lovely. And he just goes around. First he's head up and llama-ing. And I don't know what's happening, who you are. And it took about a minute. And I was like, cool, let's get you over here, move your shoulder over, put the inside leg on, and he just drops into a beautiful frame. How fancy would you like me to be?
Thank you for someone that knows how to ask.
Yeah.
And he's just lovely. And so he just goes around like that. The canter, same thing, the transitioning llamas for 2-3 strides. And then he's like, oh, weird. Okay, you're not grabbing my face. Cool, let's do something different. I popped him over a couple little jumps. And you can tell he's not confident. He feels like a horse that, probably being in a lesson program, I'm not going to assume he's been ridden by the best riders in the world just because people are lessening. That is the point of lessonings, right? You go and ride somebody else's horse to be able to get better. And the horses have to be really pretty forgiving. And with just how anxious he is in general, he's settled. He's great in the barn. He loves his best friend, Zeke. The only time he gets anxious now is if you separate them. So Zeke was actually a little colicky the other day when it was really hot. So I had to stand William in the shower with Zeke because otherwise he was screaming and making the colicky horse more nervous. And I was just like, cool. So both of you were just going to hang out here. I put them on the cross ties together and just did some weird cross thing. They stood there for an hour. They're fine. But it worked. But anyway, so Williams, he's great. And he's exactly what I want in the program because he gives me a chance to educate about these things. And it's not to say that all cases of kissing spine are a matter of saddle fit, correct ride, and some patience and groundwork. Right. We did euthanize a case here, not from stall 13, but from my consignment side about 3 months ago when a horse just couldn't keep the weight on. He couldn't put his hind end under him. He was in pain standing, in pain riding. And it was one of the more like disconcerting rides I've been on because I had no brakes. Because you have to, they need to put their hind end under them, right?
Yeah.
And if it hurts to do that or they physically cannot, the only way to stop a horse is to haul them up on their forehand, which is a way of riding I violently hate doing, right? Like I do not want to float their teeth and throw them on their hind end or on their forehand to stop. And that was literally the only way I could stop this horse. And I was like, oh, this is awful. I don't even want to, like, this just feels wrong. When we found, I was like, maybe it's hind end lameness. He doesn't want to sit over things. Like, and we went from the bottom up and ended up finding, after we checked kind of all of his limbs, did the things, had vets out multiple times, I finally was like, all right, I think we need to x-ray the back. And they're like, man, we were waiting for you to say that. And I never say that. I don't go to the back. So 80% of thoroughbreds have some form of kissing spine. It's some wild statistic like that. And then of those, there's 20% of that 80, 16 horses out of 100 have any form of actual complications with it. But when they do. And that one did. So we ended up making, I think, really the smart, honest call that was like, he wasn't comfortable in a field either. Yeah. And my vet used a great word for him. He called him thrifty, right? He was just not, his coat didn't look good. His body didn't look good. His eye was never settled.
Yeah. He's probably just insane. So,
it's a little bit of that, like, the thing that they, like, assign to newborns where they call them, like, where they say they have a failure to thrive.
Yeah.
And it's just like they just have enough checkpoints where it's like they're just never going to be able to be happy in the world. And it's too bad.
It sucks. It's hard. But so saying that with that, and their backs honestly don't look that different if you look at an x-ray between those two horses. I should probably do a comparison at some point and put them next to each other. But I think part of what it is, it's with the facets, it has a lot more to do with just other pieces other than just the bone touching bone, right? And in William's case, I was like bringing him home, I knew it was going to either be, we can fix this and find ways to work around and accommodate. And that's with a lot of these horses. They just need accommodations. I used to teach students and they all need accommodations, right? Some of them are hearing impaired. Some of them have anxiety. Some test taking anxiety. Some of them have an accommodation that they cannot get to class 10 minutes without being 10 minutes late. It doesn't matter. You just kind of go, okay, do I want to make this the reason, is this the hill we die on? Or is this going to be something where I just go, that's fine, how do we work with this to still make sure you're learning and the class is still functioning and all the things? Yeah. And so with these horses, same thing. The kissing spine, you might have to accommodate a little bit. Do I think this is going to be a 3-foot horse? No. But do I think he can do probably through starter and have a good time? Or maybe just be a nice little dressage horse that can bop around and have a good time and be a reliable partner? Fine, with some accommodation of maybe we can't crank him to a certain frame at a certain point. Nobody wants to crank into a frame anyway, but some people still try.
There's plenty of people that just want to like plop around and go for a little walk, trot, canter, go on.
Except they all think they need the upper level horse, even when that's all that they want to do.
I know, that's fair.
Welcome to selling troubles.
I was thinking about the horse that you mentioned before that had the hind end issues, and that when you started to talk about how he felt the first ride back after 10 days of him having the injections, you were like, oh my God. And then he was able to use his back and stretch down. And I think it's one of the things I'm most grateful for with working with somebody like Emily was like being able to realize that sometimes what you think is the problem is not the problem. It's like you might be on a horse. Oh, my horse doesn't want to stretch. And you're thinking about the front end of the horse, right? But it's a horse can't stretch if it has referral pain or if it literally can't push itself from behind, and it's like you start to learn that all of those little parts and pieces. So is it the back? Is it the hocks? Is it the teeth? It's like there's all these little
hind feet. Yeah,
it's just so many different things, and it's really interesting when you start learning how to identify what the other causations might be before you just jump to the most obvious answer. Because I think it's really easy to just settle on that and go, it's got to be that, and it's like there could be lots of other things too.
And I find with backs, like if we x-rayed Hennessy's back, I'm sure there's probably something there too. That wouldn't surprise me at all because he's a thoroughbred. And we could have been like, oh, that's the problem, right? And then been like, oh, and
then just stop there.
Exactly, and a lot of people, and I don't blame them for this because it's such a heart-wrenching thing. But
I guess rather than stopping there, I wish people would start somewhere else. Let's go to the back last.
Let's go to their hind feet first, and let's start from the hind feet and work up.
Work our way up.
And and there's so many, and I'm careful when I say these things because I know that people have really strong feelings about them, but I get really frustrated when a body worker will come and work on a horse and be like, their back hurts. And then they're like, oh my gosh, we need to go get x-rays of the back. And it's, your back hurts because potentially it's compensatory from the feet to the ankles to the hocks to the stifles to the SI, and then the SI is sore. And I'm like, I have yet to find a horse that is SI sore because their SI is a problem. I have almost always found horses that were SI is sore because their hocks, stifles, ankles hurt,
100%.
and it's coming, and they're having to use themselves differently. And so we look, and I also have found, gonna say this, and I've told Deanne, that my editor, that I need to write and I need to write this. And she's like, yes, but we're not going to use it for your sponsored column. I was like, okay.
You can share openly here.
But I do often feel that when people want a way out, sometimes they look at the back as the silver bullet for it's not me, it's them. And I couldn't fix this anyway. And I'm like, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think sometimes people just get really frustrated with what they're riding. It's dangerous. Maybe it scares them. Maybe it's just frustrating.
Listen,
and
also, like, if you
lets them stop.
If you believed all the tropes of kissing spine, as somebody who was looking at horses, right? And you thought, if a horse has kissing spine, it's going to be sour. It's going to want to buck me off. I'm going to have saddle fit issues. And you weren't a very experienced rider. You weren't a super confident rider. That probably would scare you. Mm-hmm. You'd hear kissing spine and go, I'm not good enough to ride that horse, or I'm afraid of that horse already because... Or
if your frame of reference is one horse.
Right, or, exactly.
And you've had one horse.
You have a sample size of
one. Horse had kissing spine and it bucked, or it whatever.
Yeah.
Versus someone like you, Aubrey, that's had probably hundreds of horses, right? The size is so much larger. And I think that really... in and factors in, but it does make it difficult for that adult amateur. I think we probably talked about this last time, but if your last horse had X, you're never going to touch that again. If it has Y, you're never going to touch it. Could be anything. But PPEs are studies in PTSD is what we end up saying a lot around here. It's like whatever it was that caused your PTSD.
I don't want to laugh because that's real, but no, we're going to get to that in a second, but oh my gosh, yes, it's rough.
Yeah. No, that is so true. Let's start there.
Right.
What went wrong
So this is a good segue because we want to switch a little bit to your sport horse program and everything, but what's changed since the last time we talked? How are things going?
Oh, geez. When was the last time we talked? It's been a minute.
It's been a while.
A year?
It's been at least a year, I think it was season 2. Yeah.
How are things going? So I'm learning a lot. And that's the biggest thing for me. That's the most probably important thing that keeps me going, which is great. I'm finding the market right now is very challenging with the economic downturn, with inflation, with diesel prices, shipping. I am in upstate New York, which means you have to ship a little further to get a horse from here to many other people. Yeah. It's tough. It's not necessarily the easiest period right now. And there's been some pretty good logistical challenges with the region between whether it's farriers or barn help or whatever else. So if you want to work in my barn, please call me.
I so wish you were closer. I would love to work for you.
I would love to have you. It's been tough. And a lot of horses, I joke that they're piling up, but they are. I have a handful of scratch and dents, right?
I love that you call them scratch and dents. It's like my favorite thing ever.
They are. They're wonderful, and they're my favorite creatures because I'm able to move the lovely, easy ones relatively quickly, but whether it's a mental thing or what else, right? And it's the same. It's the for-profit side of the nonprofit, which is I love these horses. I love figuring them out. I bring them in because I'm dumb. I do a lot of things because I'm dumb. It's
you're clearly very dumb.
But I sit there and I'll be online and I'll see a horse and I'm like, oh, I want to feed that one. And do I have money to feed that one? No. Is it going to take
the amount of times that Emily and I would be like,
loss? No.
the amount of times that Emily and I would be like,
we're done. We're going to take a break.
We're taking a break. And then I'm like driving home from the farm and I'm like, hey, I just bought one on the way home.
Yeah, but it's gray. But it's gray and a gelding and 4 years old and 16 too. So then it's fine.
And she's like, well, okay. Yeah.
It's like my poor partner. I'll be like, Taylor, I'll be like, so I did something dumb. He's like, what did you buy this time? And he just knows. He's like,
He's like hoping it's a tractor, but it's another horse. And you're like,
no, I know. He's like, wouldn't that be great? If we have a 1979 skid steer. That thing makes and breaks his mental health on a daily basis. So,
oh my gosh.
The poor thing. He's fantastic.
Oh my gosh.
But the business itself I have more horses in than I would like. I'm working on trying to move some of these ones where I get protective over them, and I try to make sure that they get to the right spot, and I trust my gut more than I maybe should. But when I'm selling them, I make people send me video. It's more of a conversation and a matchmaking type thing as opposed to just, do you check the basic boxes? Yes, please buy the horse. But I've had a lot of interesting cases recently with consignment and my horses where I'm just learning. I wish I could go back and know what I know now with other horses and see what I could have done. And I'm going to be excited for whatever comes in the future, because if I'm learning at this amount, I'm going to be able to say that in a year or 4 years and be like, wow, I wish I'd known that now. So knowing what you don't know or not knowing what you don't know is also terrifying. But the hind end stuff, I keep kind of get stuck on this because I have a new metric of how do I assess if a horse might be a little bit in need of maintenance. Obviously, if they look lame, they probably need a vet to assess them and a farrier to take a look at things. Okay, that's fine. But as a trainer, sometimes you're riding it and you can't see it. If I have a horse that is particularly hind-end asymmetric, I have a bad back. I had a couple of ground injuries where I broke some bones and things. And so my back is like a dowering rod. If I'm on something asymmetric, it will start to lock up and within seconds of a walk. And I'll be like, we're lame.
So you're like a litmus test for lameness.
Yes.
They should be paying you for pre-purchases at this stage.
Right? My vets are like, you're a little picky. And I'm like, no, my back still hurts. They're not fixed. But that is not a replicable litmus test, but one that is. I have a jump field right now. So we actually extended. We have a nice little cross-country field that we started to build some jumps for, and I've probably got 10 nice little jumps out there, mostly starter size, some beginner novice stuff. And then I want to put an outdoor arena in. Though this region's fascinating. I've had 2 people come out to look to give me quotes for an arena, and no one has actually followed through with giving me quotes or wanting to do the work. That is I have lots of anthropological thoughts on the fun aspects of this region. But so what we did is it's summer, or spring to summer, so we just mowed down into the hayfield should be the arena, and now just turned it into a jump field and running with it that way. That won't work when it gets super muddy or whatnot, but for the time being, it's great. So I'm riding out there a bit more. Fantastic. So you take a horse out of the arena and the indoor where they're doing really well, and obviously they're green and they might be tight behind, whatever. If you put them out there and you get behavioral problems, it's largely not because the horses are running in the next field or because we had coyotes today and the horses were chasing them.
My God.
So it's not that they're, I walked out with a shovel over my shoulder, like as if I was going to go.
What were you going to do?
I actually used the shovel to bang on the gate. I was like, it's loud, go away. But I don't know. I was like, I'll just threaten you with the shovel. And the horses were like, we already chased them out of the paddock, Cuban, you're fine. But it's not going to be the coyotes, which are not very common.
You need a mule or a donkey. Clearly.
I know.
Yes. And then I have to deal with them. But yes, they're cute. But yes,
well, I want to just quickly interject a story where Emily had a client coming out to look at a horse. This is years ago. We didn't have a ring. The ring was being built. And we, by hand, weed whacked a strip of land to set up like a little grid so that we could...
In the hayfield, yeah.
In the hayfield. Yeah. And we found a bedded down fawn, next to where we were, because that's how tall the hay was.
I think it was after we'd ridden and weed whacked and everything, and the poor little fawn was sitting there like... Up.
But yeah, we've been there. Where you're just like, we've got a client coming, we got to find somewhere where they can jump a couple of jumps. So we're out there with just shears and a weed whacker trying to make a little space.
Oh my God.
That's awesome. So yes, we have lots of wildlife. We're riding. Occasionally there's a doe that won't leave, and you're like, "Where's the fawn? Where's the fawn?" Right. But the fun thing with this arena now is it's lovely, and I've got a bit of a course set up out there, and it looks nice. All the fun things, take good pictures. But the fun thing with this arena now is it's lovely, and I've got a bit of a course set up out there, and it looks nice, all the fun things, take good pictures. But the fun thing with this arena now is it's lovely, and I've got a bit of a course set up out there, and it looks nice, all the fun things, take good pictures. But the ground's not perfectly level, right? So it's got these little undulations, these little like divots, this, that, the other. And so if you run on a treadmill all the time, your joints hit always at the same point, right? And you can control exactly where, I've got all sorts of, I'm dents and dings and scratching done over here. If I can run on the left side of my foot for my left knee, I can avoid pain. If I have to step on the right side of my foot and roll a little bit more towards my big toe, it hurts. So I tend to run on the outside of my foot.
Yeah.
To put me on a trail, and I have to run slower and a little more carefully and a little more alert to make sure that I don't do something that rolls it to hurt my knee. These horses are the same. You take them out into this field and there's limb pain anywhere, they get very guarded. It increases their spookiness, it increases their fractiousness, and suddenly you have behavior where you didn't have behavior inside. And people usually go, oh, we went outside, and outside they don't like being outside the ring. They're a little wild, they get distracted, they're hot, and it's okay, that actually probably should be a sign that you start looking for pain. Some of them, of course, like sure, are just going to be like, what? There's a bird. Oh, that's cool. And they're all over the place. But there is a difference between the feeling of riding something that is distracted and spooky or something that is, there's a spookiness and a fractiousness and a kind of like warning light that comes on from pain, from having to roll their limbs in different ways. Yeah. I had one that was like, I was pretty sure it was unsound, but it trotted evenly and beautifully inside. It just, the canter was really tricky. And its owner had said, hey, I don't know, I just want to send him for training. He bucks a little bit at the canter. He never bucked with me inside. He was lovely. And I would just send the video of him cantering around, being a beautiful horse. And I took him outside the other day because there were just too many people in my indoor for whatever reason. I was like, I've had too many people. I need to go outside. And I go outside. I was like, we're just going to walk and trot. I know outside's hard for you right now. Fine. And he lost it to the degree that I'm like making signals to my partner who just turned on the tractor, which was the last straw. And this horse stands straight. The horse stands straight up. I literally ripped a whole handful of mane out because I wasn't expecting it. And I've got the ends of the mane sitting here in my hand. I'm like, this is helpful. As he's still in the air. I'm like, great. He comes back down and Taylor hasn't looked up yet. So he's just laughing with the tractor now that it's on. And I'm like making the cutthroat, turn it off, like the thing. And he's like, what? Just waving at me. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die.
You're great.
You're like, I'm not having a good time. Help.
So I was just laughing. It took a solid 30 seconds of sign language before he turned the tractor off. And he's like, what? I was like, I'm going to die. I need to go back inside. Don't turn it on.
Oh my gosh.
And then I called the vet out, and he has 3 out of the 4 of his lower suspensories are chronic and extremely inflamed. Oh my God. And he has mild hock arthritis, which we knew that was going to be a standard. It's a thoroughbred. It probably is mild hock arthritis. But the suspensories, put different left, right on up, down, different terrain. And suddenly we're tweaking these things that he's holding it together and stepping well inside. And now we go outside. So again, that's a weird way of talking about how my business is going, but I'm learning to use these different things to be able to assess these horses. Tools, that allow us to then try to get these horses right. And they're sellable when things are right. They're not when things aren't. And so a lot of people try to just maybe drop their price down, or we'll try to give them away or do things. And if we could figure out how to get them as close to right as possible before they move, or at least have instructions for the next people who take them over, we're giving them a better chance at a life that's going to be productive, which then keeps them safe, right? As soon as they lose their productivity, their safety goes with it. Yeah. So that's been an interesting thing. I've had a handful of horses come back. My return policy has been used by a number of people, which is good and bad. I like when horses get to come back because they need to, because they have a spot, right? It's like, oh, your horse is got to send him back. Shit. One I'm talking to right now, and the horse is being an ass, right? All the behavior you don't want him to have, he has. And I sold him. He's a lovely horse. He's a big horse, too. And he's just doing all these things. And I was like, have you scoped for ulcers? And they're like, we treated for ulcers. We did a full month of GastroGuard, whole 9 yards. And just they keep talking through this stuff. And I was like, I would go ulcers, hind feet. If you already did his hocks, let's look at his stifles. It's just, we know with this horse, he's just big. And there's a handful of things. So I was just like, let's just start there. No, thankfully they did. They scoped, and he had grade 3 ulcers. And so does that fix everything? No. But will it fix a lot of that? And it could be,
like you say, it could be an indicator of, like, maybe his hocks hurt.
Yeah. And it could be also maybe he doesn't love his turnout. And, exactly. Or things like that. That's other things they're worried about, which is fine. But again, they're doing the right thing, and they're doing their due diligence by him. And by keeping that open communication, with me, I get to be slightly, at least helpful.
Yeah, I love that.
With some of this. So that stuff I love. And now I get to sit on the fun thing with both the nonprofit and the for-profit. And really the only reason I do sales is I get to sit on and deal with and figure out so many of these horses. And I get excited when I get new ones in because it's going to be, okay, what are we dealing with here? What's it going to do? The first rides are so much fun. And then just working through who is this creature and how do we figure out what it wants to do and get it to the right spot. And that puzzle is great. So
yeah, Emily always calls it like unwrapping a Christmas present on Christmas Day, or the first time
yes,
you get to,
it pretty much is.
It's pretty exciting.
Or a box of chocolates.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get.
You never get. I got on one the other day, and I had no idea if it was his first ride or not because his owner's lovely. And I sat out and drank a beer and talked to her for an hour at the end of my day where I'm like super chatty and I'm like, great, because I'm done. But of course, do I remember everything she said and all the descriptions? Because it sounds like every other horse that has needed to come here for consignment, right? It was a little too much horse, more than she wanted to deal with. She tried to give it back. They wouldn't take it back from where she got it from, so now she's stuck with this horse. But I don't remember if it's been sat on before or not. I go to get on him when he gets here, and I'm like, I don't really remember if he's been ridden or not yet. But I kind of treat first rides all the same. It really doesn't matter if it's been ridden before or not. And of course, I get on, and he has one wildly fractious moment, and I was like, I just talentedly sack of potatoes. That is the only option I have right now, is stay in the center, sack a potato this, because if you try to turn, it's gonna get worse. If you try to kick forward, it's gonna get worse. All of your outs are gone.
You're right. Throw all of your instincts out the window and just get real heavy.
Everything you want to do, just stay. And the funny thing is, he did that for a couple seconds. It always feels like an 8-second ride when they do stuff like that, but it's not. It's a few movements, and probably looks far less impressive. But my assistant was not. She was like, okay. And I was like, just don't move. And I just sat there. He literally turned and looked at me and actually turned his whole head and eyeballed me. And I was like, okay. I think the fact that I did nothing was exactly what he needed because he has never put a foot out of line since.
Yeah.
He was literally like, weird.
But also, say more about doing nothing because it's literally the hardest thing to do.
It is literally the hardest.
You know what I mean?
Most of riding with thoroughbreds is do less. And then when people
less.
think they're doing less, do even less. And then you can't fully do nothing or you will fall off. But it's about staying centered in the saddle. So I do a lot of nothing or do a lot of doing less when I ride, which is just, I tell people it's like kind of plugging in like an outlet into the saddle. So you have the 3-prong outlets or 3-prong plugs, an outlet. And if your saddle has the plug and you're the outlet, you got your seat bones are 2 of them, and then the front of your pelvis, which is your pubic bone, would be your 3rd. And you just have to have all 3 of them down because if you're trying to do this on an angle where somebody's too far over their pockets, then their seat bones are down.
They're driving, right?
But they're driving, but their pubic bone is up. And if you're too far forward in a hunter kind of perch, then your seat bones are off the saddle, and nothing is settling
connected.
If you manage to get all 3 down, you can be no hands, no feet, and they can make a 10-foot leap to the left, and you are still in the center. And so much of that it's balance, but it's the doing nothing comes from being grounded enough to be able to do nothing and not rely on your legs, your hands, or other things to hold you in the saddle. It's just being able to be centered. And easier said than done by a long shot.
I don't know if you
from there you can be soft.
Yeah, exactly.
Or make decisions.
I don't know if you listen to or follow. So we just interviewed Lloyd Crabb. Do you know him? He's from the UK.
I do not.
You should look him up on Instagram. You would love him. So he basically just gets horses that he's going to keep them primarily forever, but he gets horses off the track and he does these really great coaching videos and he does coaching sessions with people, but he just literally just shows you tips that you can do while you're out. Like if the horse is getting a little nappy or doing this, or you're picking up the canter for the first time out on the road or whatever you might be doing. And it all seems so simple, but it's all so good. It's like, no, that's it. That's it. You're overthinking it if you're doing more than that. Yeah. He's here, put a bridge in your reins. Now you don't have to worry about what length your reins are. It's That's it. He's like, put a bridge in your reins. He's like, now no matter what the horse does, you're fine. He's like, the last thing you want is for your horse to bolt or spook or start turning around and you're gathering up the reins and this and that. It's like, it is simple. You can simplify it a lot.
Yeah, it's very much the keep it simple, stupid. If you try to do too much with these horses, it gets micromanaging. You try to do that, and then they're all like, I'm sorry, now I can react, not have to respond.
Right. They're like, I don't speak that language.
They're like, what? That's wrestling. I don't know. Now everything is bad.
Exactly. I'd like to leave now.
My whole goal is to get these guys to critically think. And they're smart enough. I know it sounds silly to be like, the animals need to critically think, but they do. They need to be able to take in there, figure it out, process it, and then make a responsible, within an understanding of what the rules are, response to that. And certainly they're allowed to break rules at points, but if they can think that through, you have a very rideable horse. If they can't think that through because there's too much noise and everything's happening and they can't think clearly and they don't have the space and the time to process because their feet are moving so fast and you're moving so fast, then everything goes to hell really quite quickly.
And I think that, to echo what you're saying, that's where our responsibility comes in, right? Is to make sure that we are the constant, that we give them something to rely on in an unsure environment for them. Because, they have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge, but we're asking them to do something that they most likely have not done before, as riding in a ring, going out into a grass field with a bunch of jumps or whatever. So if we can create a constant environment for them, they start leaning on that really quickly.
Yep. No, absolutely.
Do we want to dig into thoroughbred logic, Emily? Do you think? Or is there any more questions you wanted to...
Was there anything else you wanted to add about Stall 13 or your for-profit business before we move on to thoroughbred logic?
I'm sure I'll come back to that and be like, hey, by the way, I don't know.
Just trying to make sure we hit
that one ahead of time.
Yeah. If there are any points that you wanted to hit, then let us know.
I honestly think those are the main points with Stall 13. I think I'm excited to see where it's able to go. And I think that's one of the big things is that I never know what type of horse we're bringing in next because they're the ones that hit me and I go, yes, that has to come in here. I actually have one on a waiting list that I should flag up. It's really cool. I'm very excited for him to get here. He's 19. I think he might be 20 by the time he comes in. And this is exactly what I want to do, right? These horses are the reason that I do these things. And it sounds very simple and very overly romantic that you have horses like William and things like that. I'm not going to say no to that. This is literally why I'm set up the way I am.
Yeah.
If I can't do it, if I'm not going to do that, who is? Other people might, but it's one of those where you're like, I built this to be able to take these horses in, both on the for-profit and the non-profit side, and provide them environments where we can get this sorted out. So sometimes you get them, they just walk across the road, or you bump into them, and you're like, I wasn't planning on that, but that's happening right now. And so I'm excited for this older horse because the family is moving to New Zealand. And so they're being super responsible, and they're like, we can't take the horse with us because it's New Zealand, and there's quarantine, and it's also wildly expensive to bring a horse over there.
Yeah.
But more they're worried about the quarantine. They don't want to put him through the shipping and having to wait for a long time. And they're like, this has been our family pet and friend. We ride him still every 5 days a week, and we love him dearly. So we want to get him somewhere great. But they're like, he's not a plotter and he's not a trail horse. I ride him on trails, but we go fast, and he's a thoroughbred, right? So I'm actually excited about this because I think it's a new challenge to work with in terms of finding adopters and finding people who want a horse with a little bit of age on him, who is not going to be the easy peasy horse because they still have a brain. They're still a thoroughbred. They're still doing these things. And it's just going to be that it's a challenge I haven't worked with yet. And I wasn't expecting the kissing spine horse. I wasn't expecting when we dealt with Major Spin, who was the one who started this with the knee. He had a knee that people looked at. We actually printed it out on sweatshirts. It was so egregious with the slab fracture and chip and arthritis. You just look at it and you're like, that shouldn't be there.
You can see it from space.
And we ended up, I guess I should say with Stall 13, the thing is these horses are getting adopted and going on to careers within their limitations. So Spin went to the makeover last year. He came off the track with this god-awful knee. He had been run on it. He was three-legged lame when I met him at the track. I ended up finally having to buy him off the track to get him out of that situation. There's very few horses that I consider a rescue off the track, and he's probably one of them. And by that point, I was like, if I have to just euthanize him in 3 months because he can't walk, I will give him all the alfalfa that he needs between now and then, and it will be fine. And turns out, gave him 3 months of rest, and the horse was pretty damn sound. So we actually did no maintenance. We just slowly brought him back and got him riding, and then got him dressaging, and I had some of my working students hop on. He was very rideable, took him to the makeover, and he did fantastic. I think he ended up in the first third of dressage, despite the fact that the fox hunt went by when we went to walk. So we had, I'm going and I'm like, okay, down transition from chop to walk, and then you just hear, and I was like, that's a funny car horn.
Oh my God.
And then I look up and you see the hounds go by and the galloping field of horses. And he goes, what? And that looks like a lot more fun than this. And scrambles through our entire walk. And I got him back for the second half of the test, so it was fine. But I was just like, considering that, he still placed really quite well. And he sold, I say sold because I'm so stuck in the for-profit language, and I have to code switch between the two.
Yeah.
He was adopted by a lovely woman, Cassie Howe, who has him she's doing some training level tests now, taking him out showing, and I couldn't be more thrilled because I get messages from her every 5 days about how much she loves this horse and how he's asking her to grow as a rider and just how great it is. And there's a handful. So another horse that we adopted out is heading into being one of the huntsman's horses for myopia. And I was actually just there teaching a clinic this weekend and talking to her about him. And he's stepping into some really big shoes that he's filling from some of her other thoroughbreds. But this is a great horse that is really learning these things. So it's not just we're getting in him trying to fix him here, but they're actually going on to homes that are really pretty successful. And I'm sure there'll be ups and downs with that. The more numbers you do, your rates don't just stay at 5-star placements where you're like, we get it perfect every time.
Yeah, no, of course.
But they're all doing super well. And then Dates has his nice little journey to the makeover, and he'll go event this year.
That's so exciting.
And maybe show jumps, which is super cool. So anyway, that on the stall 13 side, I think probably wraps it up. But it makes a nice little full circle, and I can be like, okay, cool. We don't maybe have the donations we need right now, but I still feel good about what we're doing, where the horses are going, and it still seems like a really worthwhile project to keep pushing forward and seeing what shows up on the radar.
Yeah, definitely. Last time you were on, we talked about how Thoroughbred Logic came to be, and since then you've published countless articles, worked with hundreds of thoroughbreds, and taught riders all over the country. We're going to skip the origin story this time, but we're going to dig into what you've learned along the way.
Help with the question. Which part?
No, Emily's got the question.
Great.
So, question is, survey says, no, has there been a training philosophy or belief that you've completely, or wait, if I could speak, that'd be good. Start again. Has there been a training philosophy or belief you've completely changed your mind about over the years?
Completely changed my mind about? No.
Okay.
But I think I am getting some things more nuanced at this point. I have in the past 3-4 months, have been doing a ton of dressage lessons with Allie Saltonstall. She's a silver medal rider that is just up the road from me, and I'm very lucky to have her right here. And she's a fantastic instructor. So some of the interesting things is she's not thoroughbred based. She rides, I think she has a Lusitano, and she has had thoroughbreds in the past. So she's coming to my barn and working with me on 1 or 2 of my horses and a couple of my students. And I'm learning sometimes that I always want to go forward. My big thing is go forward. When the chips are down, when you don't know what else to do, when you're nothing, so just please, for the love of God, get them out in front of your leg and go forward. And she's really asking me to figure out where that line is and also be able to come back more. Mm-hmm. And is having me ride, it's dressage, and I need to be able to ride slower. I like to go fast. This is a general thing in my life. Yeah, definitely jump off the diving board before I know if there's water in the pool type of thing for all of my life decisions ever. But with the Thoroughbred Logic stuff, I'm really thinking through and coming back to some of the old articles and being like, is it really just about get them going forward? With some of the jumping things, with some of the grids, with some of the ways to get there, I never want them to rush at fences. But I'm looking back at some of these articles and being like, I have thought about that a little bit differently. If a horse stops, I tend at this point to give them some time to think about it, back up, and go forward, and make sure the jump is small enough that they can just pop themselves over it. And I use that a lot, whereas in the past, I have to look back at what my articles were, but I remember going back to one of my jumping articles and being like, I don't know that I would do that right away. Or I think I was like cantering at jumps earlier, where I was like, oh, okay, now that you've been riding for a total of 15 minutes and jumping for 15 minutes in your life on this horse. It only has done 15 jumps in those 15 minutes, but now let's go canter that small, do a canter grid or something along those lines. And I think I've been thinking a little bit more about the slowdown, a little bit more about just like, how do we keep them super quiet from point A to point B? Like, when do you bring in coursework? When do you canter that coursework? Right. How do you fix rushing? Which I go back to how do you fix rushing? I don't know half the time. Look at their hind end. I'm just going to sound like a broken record because they do. If they rush a fence, they're sore on their hocks 9 times out of 10 or their hind feet. Yeah. Sometimes it's just enthusiasm, but it is. I almost couldn't tell you which horse I know is just enthusiastic and just rushes like that doesn't have something that they're asking for from the hind. As soon as they have it, they can actually sit and slow down. They do not need to rush. So a lot of, I think some of the methodology has been coming towards a little bit of a little more settled, a little bit slower pace of bringing them along and doing some of these exercises. And I've come to some of that because I do eventually have a book coming out. Yes, but my editors are going to kill me. Not for saying that, but because they're going to kill me. Because
writing books is an impossible task, and you always feel like you're behind.
You heard about what my day looked like today, right? Like, somewhere in there, I'm supposed to be editing.
Someone's like, do you have any pages? And you're like, what? No.
They're like, how much have you edited since the last time we talked to you? And I was like, I can tell you what happened in the last week and you will feel bad for me and you will not ask me about my editing right now. But literally, we got on this crash course to try to get the book done in time for the makeover and have it printed and published. And in the process of getting it written, 5 a.m., I'm like, I'm up, I'm getting this done. And my computer was not highlighting correctly. So I was like trying to highlight to be able to edit. And also, that was a neat little trick. Emily, you froze and then disappeared.
She disappeared. I know.
Then she disappeared. That was great. But so I was trying to edit, and I was like, okay, this isn't letting me highlight like in a scroll where you just come across. I had to click, hold, shift, and then click, hold, shift again. I was like, what 1980s thing am I dealing in? And so I restarted my computer. And when I did that, I had 2 things open that were saved as the same name. And one said Thoroughbred Logic Book, and the other one said Thoroughbred Logic Book. And one was a 2-page outline that I wrote before I did anything in the world with this.
This is giving me so much anxiety.
And I overwrote 130 pages of my single-spaced pages of my book. And I overwrote it to every single location that it was linked on the web.
I feel unwell.
Because... Yeah, I did too. Yeah, and it was like when you do that, it says this is an overwrite. You want this document to overwrite that document. This is not, you cannot undo, right? Like
and
the Mac gives you this thing, and I was like, it's 5 a.m. I haven't had enough coffee yet. I don't know.
Oh my God.
And then I was like, wait. And so I spent 4 hours panicking and then proceeded to rewrite the entire thing.
Just to recap, Emily, she had to restart her computer and she overrode her 130-page book with
draft.
a 2-page document of the same name.
Yeah, that's about the face.
I know. I was like, I feel unwell.
Yeah, I don't even know what to do. But so I rewrote it and probably rewrote it better.
She's so stressed out.
I was just like, what am I gonna do? And I saved the parts, like some of the parts that I had really written for last to go back through.
You've got to figure out a way to dictate it while you're writing it, so you always have like an audio copy of it.
Interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Just put open voice notes and just read it out loud one day, because otherwise
something. And now I email myself copies and whatever. But in that process, I still got it done 1 day late for the deadline, sent it in. I don't have a conclusion because I still don't know how to conclude this. And it's cool. I'm really excited about the book because it takes it from the track. So I don't know I know enough about the track to know that it's dangerous, because as an anthropologist, I want to know a lot about things and to really spend a ton of time there. And so I'm trying to speak from this kind of distance perspective, but what I'm trying to do is connect what the horses know on the track and what they learn and how they learn it to what that means for their second career, what that means for your first rides, what that means for their pre-purchase coming from there. And it basically it's kind of a thoroughbreds for dummies. So it like walks people through the track and breeding farms. Yes, they've been turned out. Yes, they have seen things other than stalls. This is what happens when they go through sales prep. This is what happens when they are on the backside and training. And then we go through like if your horse ran no times, what are some questions to ask if your horse ran one time? And those are a big difference. Yeah. What are some questions to ask if your horse ran 47 times? What are we looking at? What are we asking? It runs through those. I go through like a big in-depth thing of Neil's. Like I go through my horse Neil, what's his actual name? Lute's Angel. I go through his race record, like in detail, and look through like what does the chart say? What are we finding? And that's actually neat because he has thin soles, which I just pulled his pads off because I was like, why in the hell is the horse still wearing pads? I don't even know why he's wearing pads. We've had him on for so long and he keeps pulling shoes in the field because he's wearing pads. So let's take the pads off, took the pads off. And my horse suddenly developed a rearing problem out of the blue and was so angry and just, I will not jump. I will huck myself to the other side of the fence. I'm not doing this. And then it started to stand up going into a grid. And I was like,
oh boy.
And I was like, the only thing we've changed are your pads. And I was like, the only thing we've changed are your pads. You're back in pads the next week. I have pads. Back.
It's like, I want my sneakers, my Nikes back. Thank you.
And that tracked to his race record because his race record, he ran at speed figure of 50, which is not terribly impressive on dirt. No. And they moved him to synthetic at Turfway for 2 races. And he ran at 80. And then they moved him back to dirt and he went right back to 50 and he's pin fired. So he went shinny from
from a harder surface. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it is really,
so that was like,
that's the kind of stuff that we love talking about, too, where it's like you can do some digging and find out quite a bit of information just once you learn what to look for.
And it's just so neat. Then I do try to run a narrative storytelling thing where I'm trying to also bring in stuff that's useful for people with tips and help and whatever. And then, like, how do you do first rides, what to expect. And that gets through the first 20 rides approximately. And then after that, you're in your discipline-specific stuff. And I'm not able to help you very much at that point. But there's a little bit of troubleshooting, too. Like if the horse has behavioral stuff on the ground, if we're having rearing problems, rushing problems, head tilting problems, and getting into the ways in which I've looked at trying to solve those or how I think through these on various horses, and then trying to tackle the problem also of maybe this just isn't a good match and how do you manage that and what happens when you need to resell. So it does this whole I don't know if that's a full circle or just an arc in a horse's life because it doesn't go back to the track. And then I've got to figure out how to conclude it. So I'm still trying to work through this. In the process, I can only write in mornings. My barn help finished her PhD and got a real job, and I have yet to have any. I have one morning covered when I have to write my Thoroughbred Logic articles.
Oh my God.
So that I have covered sometimes, and I have no other mornings covered, so I've lost like all writing and editing ability, and my poor editors are just like, are you ever going to finish this? And we were on such a timeline. I was like, it's never happening for the makeover. It's not happening. It might happen next year. So it'll get done eventually, but even between when I wrote it and now, I know so much more. And now I have to go back through and be like, I'm never going to want to read it once I send it out. I'm never going to want to see it again because I'm already going to have had things that challenge things I said. Like, to your point, like, what is there any philosophy that you think you fully changed? And I'm going to go back and be like, don't do that. That's bad. Don't listen to her. She's like,
who was that person?
I think that we both really relate to that because we both work in a world where everything that we do is evolving, and you just look back at your old work and go, no, I don't even want to look at that, or your old versions of stuff, and you're just like, no, it's just.
And books just take so long.
Well, and I also think,
this
this could be a multi-volume situation where it's more of an evolving book series, not just a one and done.
Probably.
Don't say that.
I actually enjoy writing books. Like I did, I wrote my dissertation. And I really loved, I had a process for writing books, which was if I don't feel like I can just dive into the academic bullshit of the whole thing, I would just sit there and pour some scotch, and I'd be like, what story do I want to tell? Like, what have I been telling people? And we're talking about things like I do storytelling all the time as a way to explain stuff. What story was it that I told a lot when I was thinking about this particular thing? Yeah, and then sometimes the story was totally not relevant, but often it was I would tell these dumb stories about the dating scene in Congo or something, which was actually somewhat relevant to the research. When you got down to most of the dating scene was nonprofits. right? And the way in which, and it opened up conversations about expats and locals and the spaces in which people could work and the limited knowledge they had, right? And I could use these things, and I'm back on track. And then my advisors half the time be like, get that out of here. What is it like? Entertaining, but not useful.
That's what your memoir should be called. Your personal memoir.
Not useful. Thanks, Dan.
I'm just kidding.
That's fantastic. I love it.
You're so smart, and you're so well versed, and it's put you like front load with this like, none of this is useful information, but here you go.
And I just make dumb choices all the time, but that's basically the truth. All the dumb decisions I've made. But yes, the book is neat, and I'm trying to get that done, and then trying to stay on top of articles as well. And it's been a little bit of a depressing couple weeks, months with the market and trying to stay afloat. And then I lost my dog of 14 years, which was really quite sad.
Yeah.
And trying to think through, but those are points that I do well writing about using storytelling as a way of getting at the emotional attachments of these things in kind of the lifeline or the lifetime of an animal and how that works. So besides writing a book for my dog, which will probably happen, I moved that dog to South Africa with me. Like there's a lot of adventures in that and a lot of just debacles and things that he could be a good point of view to discuss, right? Another sit down with scotch and tell stories about the dog. But I am trying to put these things into these articles still for Thoroughbred Logic in ways because we're horse people understand dogs, right? That's one way of a lot of people have them and they have them with them all the time. So I'm trying to think through how eventually to write that, but I have to get a little bit of distance to be able to write that one.
Absolutely.
And so I'm sitting there, I've got to write one tomorrow morning. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to write? Because I felt the last couple ones have been like, it's really tough. Just figure it out. You got to figure it out. Like the whole, like the market's really bad. How am I going to survive this? I've had horses being really tough.
I've been thinking a little bit about this because I see other resellers and I see these horses that, my goodness, they just look like they're down for anything. And I'm like, I'm just curious, what does it take to sell this horse? What do I have to do to get somebody to buy this freaking horse? It looks like it's going to ride
it in a dinosaur costume, I think.
I just saw somebody, I think it was one of...
Risk your life jumping
I think it was somebody, I think it was one of Jessica's horses. She had one of her guys, like, swimming the horse, and then he does a backflip off of it. Right. And I'm just like, and the horse is just like, that's fun. And I'm like, what do you have to do to sell the horse? What do you have to do?
That is literally how I ended up in a damn dinosaur.
I know.
Jumping a horse. It's like, what? Asking that question. What do I have to do? And so I was like, what do I have to do? Ride it in a damn dinosaur costume? People are like, yes. Yeah. And I was like,
it worked.
And now it did. I got him sold, but I don't think that was why he sold. He's still happily, he's like a partial lesson horse, and he's at least out and he's loving life. But oh my goodness, that horse is not totally bomb proof, and trying to jump that thing in a freaking T-Rex costume was terrible.
Yeah. I don't know what it's like. A couple of years ago, I think when we first started this, I posted something on social media where I took the same horse and the same confirmation photo, changed the background, changed the color of the horse, and said, which horse would you buy and why? One was plain bay, one was dapple gray. And boy, did people have opinions. And it was so interesting. And a couple of people kind of caught on to the fact that it was the same horse. Not very many did.
And people were like emphatic about they wanted this one or this one about
based on
like the confirmation.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, that is so funny. So that's something that Emily and I always thought would be really funny to do is to take a sales horse and put 4 white socks on it in a blaze and be like, just query, put it up on the internet, see if it can break the internet today. Yeah. And it's like, that horse could be like 3-legged lame and people would still buy it.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And to your point, the interesting thing is what you have to do to be able to sell the horse is create the horse into something that it's not a lot of times. Is the answer, right? Like Jessica makes, like, she's moved into crosses and makes these wonderful horses, and her Justins do great jobs bringing them along and getting them trail experience and doing all these things. I would say she may have some really bomb-proof, wonderful horses that could go out and do obviously they're going out and doing these things with pros. With mine, I have so many inquiries for horses that are safe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's where I ended up writing this little thing a while ago, another Logic article on what is safe. What does that actually mean? Because I don't use that word with horses ever.
Yeah.
Right. I will use it like I feel safe, but it's an emotional thing. It's a feeling. It's not they are safe. It's not a blanket, overarching umbrella of what the horse is. They are animals, right? And so I have a lot of these
women who are returning to riding after a while, or they've had kids, or the following thing, it usually says, I need something safe. I don't bounce as well as I used to. Is almost always,
Yes.
or gravity hits harder at my age, right? People will say these things, and they always come with this little quip, but I often am like, I don't really know what to tell you, because most of what I have are thoroughbreds, and they do move quickly, even though I think they're extremely safe. Are they going to be as tolerant as you need? Are they going to be able to handle a safe code has to be able to handle riding that is not necessarily adequate for my budget? What are we getting at there? And I think there are a lot of interesting questions when people start using that term, asking for horses. And so to be able to sell them, a lot of times I feel like I am being pushed to be dishonest about the horses, to be able to move them. Like with Rhino, when I rode him in a, what's his name? Classy Cowboy, Rhino. Rode him in the T-Rex costume. I literally was like, this is not a bomb-proof horse. Do not try this at home, right? He is a good horse who is extremely tolerant, but he is not, would not have been the horse I would have picked out of the barn to tolerate a dino costume.
Yeah.
We just did it well enough, and it worked out enough that he didn't kill me, and he's a very good boy and should get cookies forever for that, because that's terrifying.
You're a professional, and I think what happens a lot of times is that woman or man, right? They buy this horse and they go maybe they go try it and it's fine, but they get it home and then they get a little nervous and then they don't ride it. And then a week goes by, or maybe a little longer, and then they're like, all right, let me get up my nerves and get on my new horse. And now it's not the same horse.
No.
And there's no way that you can control that once it leaves your barn. And I think there's a lot of unrealistic expectation out there about that. This isn't the same horse I bought.
Right.
It is the same horse you bought, but the circumstances have changed.
Yeah.
You changed everything else.
Right. The cross ties are different. Right? The wash stall is different. It doesn't want to go in the wash stall. It went in the wash stall just fine at your place. It's like, because it was used to that wash stall. There's just so many parameters. And there's somebody that I know right now who is looking, she's an adult amateur and she's looking for a horse, and she's actually going to Montana to a cowboy and she's like, I don't need a horse that's worked cows. And he's like, I'm sorry to let you know this. Every single one of my horses is a ranch horse. It's been roped off of. It's worked cows. It's done. It has to earn its keep here. So my horse will. And she's like, I don't know what it's going to be like if I bring it back. And I'm like, yeah, there are going to be changes. I was like, but that horse has probably seen and done more than you'll ever do with the horse. It's probably been to rodeos. It's probably like, it'll be fine.
No, absolutely. And it's tough. I just feel like the market is moving towards. And again, like Jessica's such a great, not litmus, but like temperature taker of like where the market is. And she's so smart with the business side of it, because the crosses really are a lot of what people want. I mean, the number of inquiries I get where I say to people, I'm so sorry, I don't think I have what you're looking for. I send them her way, and I send them to other people I know who are selling similar horses. I just don't have. I have quiet thoroughbreds, but they are still thoroughbreds. And then I have extremely green thoroughbreds, and then I have screaming neon green thoroughbreds where I put maybe one ride on, and it might have been good. And then, I don't know, I had to lunge one today, and I didn't know how to lunge, which is fine because I haven't trained it yet. It had one ride. And the lunging was like a meltdown. And I was like, okay, right? But you never know what you're going to get sometimes. Right. And that's like screaming neon green. Everything has to be trained. But that puts certain horses in certain budgets.
Yeah.
And it's really tricky, and I'm actually a little worried for what happens with the thoroughbred market. If you go on your site, like the group, everything is for sale, and not that many are moving quickly, and the ones that are perfect, stunning, and
the exceptional ones
going to be the exceptional one. Exactly.
Yeah. And I also think that what you're saying too is that I think in this day and age, the people that are deciding to go to horses for a recreational hobby or whatever, they're an older adult amateur, mostly women, and they're like, I just want a trail horse. I'm like, do you know what you're describing is one of the most knowledgeable, most experienced horses that you can find? To get a horse that can walk, trot, canter in the ring is a dime a dozen. A horse that can go out and take you safely on roads through over water into different places with neighborhoods, flags, mailboxes, whatever the case might be, like that's worth a lot of money. And so to say, I just want a trail ride, you're like, that means you need to add $10,000 to your budget.
Right. Yeah. If not more.
If not more, yeah.
And it's tough with thoroughbreds when especially dealing with both the for-profit and non-profit side, when they can't jump. We often say, well, you might be able to be a trail horse, right? But that is something you have to train, right? That comes with exactly all of the things you just said.
Yeah, so you got to take them out and know that they're okay.
And so often we'll have extremely inexpensive horses they have limitations. And they're like, are they going to be able to hack out alone? I'm like, I don't know. They hack my property with me, but my property is not 5 miles into the woods over streams and creeks and mountains and with bolting things of deer. We have those here, but they don't see them.
Past your neighbor's bounce house and whatever else is going on. Come from the track, so it should be pretty tolerant, but I can't guarantee.
I don't know. You throw in an Amish buggy or two, then everything's out the window. So.
Speaking from experience.
Yeah. If you have that up there, but in our area, yes, you can very easily come across some Amish buggies on the back roads, and that can be extremely exciting if they are not.
We also have a guy that rides down our road at our farm now, where you'll just be driving to the farm and he is just galloping at you on the pavement. Not with a buggy, just riding a horse down the pavement. On his horse, just full speed down the pavement. I was like, whoa. And my bar manager was like, oh yeah, this is Amish guy who works across the street, blah, blah, blah. That's his mode of transportation. I was like, was not expecting to see that here, but okay.
Straight at you on the pavement. Very good. Okay.
Yeah. Slow down a little bit. Listen, we're at almost 2 hours again, which I'm not complaining. You make our job really easy because as I'm actually highlighting things as we're going through, and I was like, questions that I had to ask you as follow-ups, you answered in your...
Yeah, we didn't have to ask.
We didn't have to ask because you're an amazing guest.
That happens when I talk too much.
All good.
But can you remind our listeners how they can find you online?
So online, the website is www.kivu sporthorses.com, and that briefly is named for my anthropology research in the Eastern Congo. I had someone actually identify that the other day. It was very exciting. She had worked in Uganda, and we've been in all the same places, and she bought one of my horses, and I was very excited.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. I was like, how neat. This is great. And then otherwise on Facebook, I go by AP Graham. My real name is Aubrey, and the only reason I am AP is because I had students who used to snoop my Facebook, and I would come in to teach at Emory, and they would be like, hey, prof, your boyfriend's pretty cute. And I'd be like, oh, my God. Crap. All right. So we're gonna fix that. So I will respond to AP, but my name is actually Aubrey. But that's where you find me there. There's a Kivu Sport Horses page, which I use a little bit less. And Stall 13 is very simply www.stall13.org.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Do you want me to do the outro, Neve, or are you going to do it?
You can do it.
So I rewrote it.
Yeah.
All right.
What do you mean what do you mean you rewrote it? I didn't put anything there.
Well, you didn't put one in, so I had to.
I didn't put one in.
She likes to make these outlines for us, and then she leaves the outro blank, and then we're like, oh my God, we've said it like 150 times, but all of a sudden I've drawn a blank. So I actually put one in here. All right. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please support the show by rating or reviewing OTTB on Tap on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Facebook. It helps more OTTB lovers find us. You can follow us, as I said, on Facebook, Instagram, or our sorely neglected TikTok for episode updates, bonus content, and more. And for even more OTTB on Tap, join us on Patreon for early access to episodes, exclusive content, some videos and other extras, some goofy stuff that Neve and I like to do, like me trying to desensitize her and then she falls down and injures herself. Talk about that. But you got to keep filming the content.
Yeah.
Anyway, visit us also on our website, OTTBOnTap.com. I just threw a lot of stuff at y'all. So send us some topic ideas, suggestions, and we love hearing from you. There we go. All right, I got to re-edit that, apparently.